Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Maya, and this is a short tutorial on building a website on Squarespace. Let's get started with some basics. First thing you want to do is select a template. Now, there's a couple things to think about in choosing the right template to make your website build as easy as possible. First, you're going to want to think about the overall look and feel that you're going for. Do you want big, huge parallax scrolling images or not? Do you want it to be clean and modern? Do you want it to be a little more rustic? Look at those types of choices and those types of brand identity questions before you choose a template. You want to think about the major elements you're going to need. Are you a visual artist that needs a lot of space for galleries of your images or pictures of your work? Then you want to look for the gallery elements in the template that you're choosing. Do you need e-commerce functionality? Do you need a blog that allows commenting? Do you need a community section? What type of elements are you presenting on your website? And what type of elements are contained in the templates that you're choosing? That will make it a lot easier in the long run to do things like add video or interactive elements because they'll already be part of the template you're choosing. You want to think about along those lines the type of functionalities that you're going to need. So in other words, like I mentioned, e-commerce. Do you need to be able to sell things from the website? If you do, you're going to need a shopping cart and certain functionalities inside the website to make that happen. And so your template should reflect that. Otherwise, you have a lot of custom building to do after the fact. Try not to get caught up in the actual look and feel of the templates. This is just a little piece of advice. The template can be styled any way that you want. So the fonts, the typography choices, the images have a lot to do with how the final website looks. And so don't get too caught up in the choices that are made by the examples that are using those templates. Instead, understand that you're going to be able to set your own branding and use the template to make it into what you need it to be. Once you're on Squarespace and you've chosen your template, the next thing that you want to do is set site-wide styles. This saves a lot of time in terms of actual typography settings and different color settings and things like that on the site. So the first thing you're going to want to do after you implement your template is go into the site-wide settings and implement the styles from your brand guidelines. Now, if you are on the right track in terms of branding and marketing, you'll have a brand guideline, which is going to be your core brand statement, your core values, even your font choices and your color choices, including the specific hex codes that go along with those colors. And so setting site-wide styles, if you have a brand guideline, is going to be a pretty simple process. You go through your H1 through H6 header tags, you set the fonts and the style settings for those, including kerning and line spacing. A lot of things are available in Squarespace for us to work with. And you go just by your brand guidelines and say, okay, well, this font is supposed to be Poppins, and so I'm going to make all the headline fonts Poppins, except for maybe my headline 4 and 5. I'll make my accent font, maybe which is Open Sans, for example. And so we can talk more about that in specific brand guideline videos, one of which I do have available and I can link for you. But you want to just implement those brand guidelines in the site-wide settings, which I will show you in this video. If you don't have a brand guideline, that's okay. This can actually be a great exercise for you to get started on developing your visual style for your company, your band, or whatever you're making the website for. So what you can do in that instance is select a template that you like enough. Maybe you are inspired by the fonts and the image choices that are used in that template. And in that case, you can even leave it alone and use those exact settings that come with the template. You can be more creative than that and more original than that by maybe starting to drop in some content, some of your own photos, some of your own stuff, and then mess around with the settings, because what it will do is it actually changes it in real time as you're looking at the website. And so sometimes we want to put a little bit of a website together first and then see how it looks with different fonts. And that can actually be a great exercise to get started with some of the branding choices of exactly what fonts and colors and things like that you'd like to use. So you can see what's best as you continue to work. So those are two different ways to approach setting the site-wide styles. And then after that, you really want to make sure that, once that basis is ready within Squarespace, that you've organized your content and you're ready to start building. So this is a little bit of outside Squarespace, but for me, as somebody who builds websites, I know firsthand that the more organized you can be with your content before you start building, the faster it's going to go, and the more you can recognize holes where you need to shoot something else, make a new video, or write some more content here and there. So to get started with organizing your content, you want to outline your main menu first. If we're talking about in an artist situation, you're a musician or a band, which is where I like to spend a lot of my thinking, in terms of the music industry, you often will have a menu that's something like, about music, videos, book us now, something like that, or events, tour schedule. So there's some main things that you want to get across in your main menu on your website. And then I always advise to have as few main menu items as you think you can, and then use sub menus that come up to organize the content from there, because you don't want more than about 4 or 5 main navigation items, or it starts to get too busy and it clips on very sort of medium screen sizes into that little hamburger menu. You don't want to do that unless you really are ready for condensing that, and you only want to have like 4 or 5, maybe 5 main menu items. So some of those things I discussed about, underneath about, it could maybe be about each member of the band. It could be about a story of how the band formed. It could be about our last tour. And those are all sort of sub items within that about. So you want to organize that main menu first. Make yourself a list of bullet points on how that's going to be organized, because that will then show you what pages you need to build. So that really becomes the outline for the entire website. And I can show you a little bit of how we actually do that type of organization. As soon as we're done with this slide here, I'll share another screen with you. I like to use Google Sheets to organize my content, especially when I'm working with a client to build a website for them, or if I'm working with a group of people. For example, if I'm working and I'm in a band and we're working together on the content for our website, a Google Sheet's a great way to organize that, because you can keep everything in one place and all edits will be saved, and we're not losing anything due to poor version control. So we want to use Google Sheets if we can to organize this type of content, and use Google Drive folders, which are also shareable, to store images and videos and text that you want to include on your website. So you want to get that main content together really before you start building, because you know what you have. And so that could even help you to understand what template to pick, because you know what you're trying to get across, and you have that all stored and ready to go before you start building the site. So this is really just kind of pre-prep for building that website. Now let's escape out of here, and I'll just share another screen with you, which is a content planning Google Sheet, which I just mentioned of a good way to do that. So as you'll see here, as we scroll down, this would be our main navigation, and I have color-coded these with the blue fill in and the white text for the main navigation. And then underneath, each of the parent menus are going to also be in blue, so that we can identify that with the main navigation. And so like I was saying, we have about, that's going to be a parent menu. We have learn, which is another parent menu. We have shop, and we have sign in. This is for more of kind of an e-commerce company situation, but you can apply that to your band website by saying, okay, about music, videos, electronic press kit, whatever you think is going to be the biggest, most general topics on your website becomes the main navigation and the parent menus. Now underneath, you'll see we have the sub menus I was talking about. And so some of these underneath the parent menu is going to be our story. What is, this product? This is a product website. Reviews may be under there because it's about. People might want to seek reviews under that. And then meet the founder. And so apply that to your own situation and your own submenus that could be present underneath there. With this one, there's certain ways that you can learn about the movement system that's associated with this product. And so there's different submenus beneath that. And so you can see that I'm organizing my spreadsheet based on the parent menu. What does that main page need to be, and what needs to go underneath it? What I would then do is say, okay, there's a certain page type that this needs to be, and we'll get into that as we start looking into the inside of Squarespace. Every single page doesn't have to be different from each other. So your blog pages can all look the same. They can have an image centered with a title above it and the text below it, those types of things. Your videos and your photos page may be a similar design to each other with like a grid of the images or the videos. And so what I mean by page type is, what does the design have to look completely different, or can I kind of clone one page and then put the new content into that? And so with a small website, you don't have to worry as much about that. But when we get into websites that have 30, 50, 60 pages, you want to reuse those page types over and over so that you can clone one and put new content in. You're not rebuilding and reinventing the wheel for every single page. That gets to be a lot of time. Then the next column over, I would have resources, which really is going to be your Google Doc with the text that you want to have, and probably even a link to then a Google Drive folder with images and videos. And so you would be able to pull, as a web designer, directly from this column and see anything that you want to see just by clicking on the link. And then here we come to the Our Story Google Doc, and you'll see that you can collaborate with your band members as well as like, how did this idea come about? And then collaborate and have other band members go ahead and type in here, and you guys can collaborate that way using Google Docs. You can tell I really love the Google products because they're really great for collaboration, and they can be protected with only inviting certain people to them if you want to, and then store it all in one place so that you have very easy access to see, where am I pulling this information from to go ahead and put in Squarespace. And so this is all about sort of getting ready to put things in there. So you can have a separate column for images and links if you want to. There's different ways that you can organize this, but I would definitely recommend having some kind of project list where you can see all of the things that have to be created. For a simple band website, it's not going to be this deep. It's going to be maybe 5 to 10 pages of content for your whole entire website. And we're going to look into what that might look like right now. Let's get into Squarespace. Like I said, the very first thing that you want to look at is selecting your template. As you'll see, I have an example website that I built just for a class I taught last semester. We came up with a name, the Bad Biddies Club. Just the students in the class and I came up with that as kind of a funny name. And so that's what that is. It's just a fake music collective, basically, for lack of a better term, called the Bad Biddies Club. And we wanted to get something that was very image heavy, big, huge, wide images on this website. You'll see as we're going through this website that it's big, wide images. This is the template that we chose, was this Polaris template. I actually liked the fonts that were present in that. And so there's some style choices that we're going to go over and show you. I turned this purple on purpose because I want to show you how to change it back. We probably shouldn't have different colors going on here unless that's part of your branding. So we'll get into that in a second, but this is the website example that we're going to use today. And the first part of that was really selecting the template. So when you come to squarespace.com/templates, it gives you some ideas of popular designs that people are using. You can see the different uses that might be interesting for each one of these. You can also go through here and select musicians and bands or professional services, whatever you may be interested in doing for your website. We're using the music industry as our main example today. And so we're going to click into musicians and bands and see the type of templates that might be available for us. So what you'll want to do is really go preview first and look at this as a website. What do you think it will do for you in terms of your brand goals, your goals for the website, what you need to do? This one I like. We can see that there's a very simple menu, tour, press, and merch. It looks like they're not sharing music downloads, streams, things like that. So if they were, they might have music up here as well. Very simple website, big wide photo of the band. And then right away we have a call to action. This would be a 2-column text image row that is available on this template. And then you can see some of the tour dates that they're offering. This, it would be called an index page. You can see that tour, press, and merch are all items on this website that would be sections of the index page. And as you click on it, it takes you to that section of the page. That's kind of the function of the index page. And then each part of that page then has its own page related to it, its own separate page. So we clicked on tour, upcoming tour dates, and we got this. If we wanted to go back to the home menu, we would click the middle logo or brand name, and we get back to that. But you see that it is a index page because we see a tour section on the page. And if we then click full schedule from here, we get back to that same upcoming tour dates listing. So what I would advise is just click through, see how things look, see if you like this sort of look and feel. You can preview it on mobile as well. I think that's a really good thing to do. We can go back to the index page at the beginning. You see how it crops that photo, and some of the band members are lost. The album artwork looks pretty good on mobile, and so on. So this is a very, very simple site. It does have some e-commerce functionality if you're interested in merchandise sales, and so you can see what that is. It has an add to cart. And so if you're interested in having a very simple site, it's selling your tour, it's showing some merchandise, this might be a good template for you. But going back to the advice when I was giving sort of these presentation slides, think about what your website has to do, what you want to share on it, and just go through some of these and view the site, view the preview. Then when you're ready, you just go ahead and click start with this theme. So let's say you've got your site done, your template in here, and you're ready to do that first step, which I mentioned, which is setting the site-wide styles. The way that you do that is you go in to the main menu, you hit design, and then site styles. And this is really a fun way to do your edits, because if you already have content in here, you're going to be able to click on exactly what you'd like to change, and it will bring it up in the styles menu for you. I really don't like this pill-shaped button. It's your choice, kind of what you like, what your style is for your band. Let's just, as an example with the site-wide styles, we're just gonna click on this button here, and it brings us to the button block. This is what we would, if we inserted a button, it would be called the small block, the button block small. And so we like it as an outline. I don't really think I love the pill. So what I'm gonna do is say that I want it square. And see, we just saw it change. Now we can determine whether we love that or not, and what we want it to look like when we scroll over. So right here, the button color would be black with the alternate button color being white. Let's say we wanted that to be pink. I don't know, for some reason. So then when you scroll over it, it should be pink, depending on what the image is behind it. So you can test those different types of things. I'm going to turn this back to white. And that should be white now. You'll learn about hex codes. There are 6-digit codes, numbers and letters, that relate to each color on the digital landscape. And so, for example, this purple would have its 6-digit code, this pink would have its own 6-digit code. And so we call those hex codes, like hexagon. And for white, it would be 00000. So that's what you saw me just put in, rather than trying to use the color selector to get white. So that's just one really quick example. Let's say we wanted to go through each thing. Our heading font would just be here. You click on it, it brings you to that part of the styles menu, and then you figure out what you'd like to change. Right here, if I want to change the kind of font that it is, we have the examples of what they look like down along the side. Maybe we might want to try and see what this one looks like, Kaluna Sans. Now let me not forget what it is already, Dosis. We want to maybe keep that because I like it. But let's just change it to Kaluna Sans just to see what it does. So you go in here, you make that change. And it should be immediately changing it. Let's save it and see if we can see it change. It wasn't that different of a font, so I want to see if we can see the difference. Did you see that just pop and change? I don't like that as much as the first one. Do you? So let's say we didn't like that. This is actually the fun part, is kind of playing around with this. If you don't have your brand guidelines set yet, you can play around this way and see, well, I like that, I don't like that. We could mess around with the kerning on this. It's very widely separated, so maybe that's why we don't like it. And another place to do that is in here, letter spacing. So you can just see, I can make it big, a lot of letter spacing, or little. So I think it was at 17, so we'll leave it there. And that's the spacing this way between the letters. And we also would call that kerning. So you would use that. You can use the size, 72 pixels is what it's set at. You know, usually when we're in the header of the very front page, we will be okay with a huge H1 headline. But as we go farther along down the page, it might look too big on certain elements. So you also want to make sure that you're considering the site overall when you're making these types of choices. So you can do text transform to make any headline uppercase. The line height is how much separation is there between lines. So like, is it double spaced, 1.5, those kind of things. And then the weight is just how heavy is it. So if you go like from a 400 to a 500, it looks more bold. Very, very bold is about 700. So just kind of giving you an idea. A 400 is around in the middle. We're going to change it back to dosis, which is what it was before we started messing around. And we hit save. And then it should pop back to what it was. See, there we go. And I like that better for this website. Now let's look at our menu, because I don't like the fact that it's pink and purple. So we can go ahead and change that. We can also change padding, which makes it, you know, wider or less wide, up and down where the menu is. So this area here, how much space is it before we start into the next section? Since this is kind of going over the top of this woman's head, I'm going to increase the header bottom padding just a little bit, maybe to 30, let's go 38 pixels, and so on. So you can mess with all of these styles, site-wide styling. I would recommend going through every single style setting so that you make sure that the font that's on your buttons is the font that you want it to be, and that we're not using too many fonts. A really good guideline for branding is 2 fonts, 3 fonts maximum if that third font is super necessary and you know how you're going to use it. In this website, we've basically chosen 2 fonts, and so we want to stick with those 2 and make sure that every single style setting is at least one of those 2, and we don't accidentally have some of the content left over from the template inside those settings. So we can do things with the header like horizontal spacing. How far apart is it horizontally? How far apart are the elements within it vertically? Where is the branding position? So this Bad Biddies Club, we really just typed it out. This could also be a logo that you upload, and I'll show you exactly where to do that here in a second. But that's what it means by branding position. In the navigation, it's on the bottom left. So that is an important thing to think about when you're building your navigation. The other thing that you want to do is quite often preview this, because as you can see, it's small within our window. And so this is going to be like almost an iPad looking size. So I'll show you how to do those different previews as well. We are hiding the search because you don't really need that on this type of website. So anyway, you would go through everything that you see here and just set everything. I was telling you, I don't really love the purple idea. So I'm going to go and I'm going to turn it white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that would be white. It should be. And the other way to do that is just all the way up left is usually white. So we're going to select that. We're going to make it not transparent, not transparent at all, because we want it to be opaque, white. And then let's say maybe we can leave this pink. I don't know. If you have a hex code, all you do is you just triple click 1, 2, 3, and it highlights the whole thing. And then you enter your hex code. So it would always start with a hashtag, and then let's just make something up. GH15672. Oh no, 1567. Yeah, that's six digits. I don't know what color that is. I don't know if it's even a color. Or we can go, one that I know is FFF. So that could be white, or you can go 111, 111. Now it would be black. See how it moved down here for the 111? All right, so we want this to be maybe white, and we'll leave it at that. And then the cool thing on Squarespace is it shows you what you've changed. So right here, this is a change that hasn't been saved, and this is a change that hasn't been saved. So we want to make sure that we hit save, and you should see that change. It made it disappear, so we must have hit black on that one or something. Maybe I made it 100% transparent. Maybe it was the other way. Some of this takes a little bit of finagling to see what happens. There we go. I had made it transparent. So, you know, we may think that now this looks too boring. So we have to kind of see what we think about that, but that's where you would change it. And then we just go ahead and go through all the different elements on the page. This, I don't know why it is like that. This is heading 1, line height. Maybe if we make a bigger line height, let's see what happens on that. So that made it a big, big line height. So let's go back, and it was on 0.5, which is half a line. So I could see why it was doing that. Let's put it on 1.3 for a line height. And that's better. Just know that anytime you're changing that, whatever is H1 is going to reflect that. So you see how much wider apart this is now? I don't know why just one of those was like that. So something must have happened, but you want to go back in and make sure that it looks good, because these, again, they're called site-wide settings. So anything that's tagged as an H1 is going to look like that. Anything that's tagged as an H2 is going to look like how you set your H2. So it's important for consistency to set all of these and understand that that is the goal, is the consistency. Any element that has those settings will always have those settings. So remember, if you're changing it in one place, it's going to change it everywhere when you're using the site styles. So we're going to go in here. I think that that is too far apart now. So rather than 1.3, I'm going to make it 1. And let's see how we feel about that. So some of it's just messing around. I think I'm okay with that. Now I'm going to go out of design now because I've set some of my styles. I'm going to go back to home, pages, and you can see how this is set up. So we're going to go into a little bit more of this right now, but I want to show you this. Once you're on the pages menu, you just simply hover and click this little arrow to see the site in its full capacity. Okay, because I was telling you that it's kind of squished in when you're working on it. So you do want to kind of go out and then look at this and see how it's looking there. All right, and then to get it back, you just click that little thing again, and now you're here on all of your pages. Now let's get into actually putting content into your Squarespace website. Now I mentioned a couple times it's really important to get organized first before you get to this stage. Now here's an example of how I organized images for my Bad Biddies Club website. I have a separate folder with images that I've pulled from, stock images that I liked, things that I think might go along with the site that I'm using. And so I pulled a little bit of stock imagery, and then hopefully you would have also your own photo shoots going on where you're using real band photos. And let's say if we open up this one, we did a photo shoot in class last time, and we got, just a couple of different photos that we might want to use for the website. So we have them all stored in the same place. If you have videos, audio files, or anything else, you want to make sure that they're very organized within your folder and ready to go to put into the site. It just makes it a lot easier when you're trying to upload things and get things looking good. So let's just kind of start with our homepage. We're going to go back to where we would actually work on that in Squarespace. So if you're ever on a different menu, like let's say you're somewhere else, you don't even really know where you are, you just go ahead and hit home as many times as you need to get back to this main menu here. In order to start putting in content and editing content, you hit pages. Then you'll see your main navigation and what's happening on your pages. So I want to share with you the difference really quick between an index page, which is denoted by these two rectangular little shapes here, versus a regular page, which looks like a page. So you'll see that this correlates to my menu on top. Let me move myself down here really quick. So we have home, which is here, music, shop, community, about, and booking. Now, as you see, this is maybe a little bit too much to have in my main menu, so we can think about other places to put these things, and that's one of the things we'll consider. We have it pretty small, so it is fitting okay. I would not have many more than this, though. What we could do is eliminate home and have that just as you click on the Bad Biddies logo, it would go back to the home page. That's a very common thing that people will do and expect on websites. So that's one way that we can eliminate it and get it down to 3. So just showing you that this listing here is correlating directly to your main navigation. So let's go to the home page and get that designed. Let's open up the different pages that are part of the index, and you'll see as you're going down to each one of these, it's a section on the page. Community is a section on the page. Denver Showcase is a section on that page, and shop. So on your home page, you're going to want to just think about what are the main things I'm trying to promote the main things I'm trying to communicate about my brand, and use the homepage as that real estate to do so. You really want to be selling tickets to your next show, promoting your latest release, sharing the most relevant information that you can, and providing opportunities for people to convert, which we'll go into that here in a second. So we want to start off with, what are the main things that I want on my home page? You might want to immediately start out with a listen button, because people may be there to hear your music. If you don't have anything recorded, or you're more of a touring or a cover band, you might want to have a tour dates button here, or a book us now button here. You want to arrange your homepage in order of importance. So that's kind of where I would start with, just kind of outlining the homepage and what these different sections need to be. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's just preview this here a little bit and see where we're at. Here's a couple pieces of advice for you. If you're starting your website out with a big, wide banner image like this that actually goes behind the menu and everything, you want to use a photo that is okay if font or typography goes over the top of it, if buttons go over the top of it. So it's not like a picture of someone's face and the writing is going to go right over the top of their face and look weird. So we want to use kind of more of an abstract image here, which I would recommend if you're going to be having stuff over the top of it. So as you can see, I picked out one of the images from my folder was this silhouette image right here. And I had already kind of picked that out because she's a bad biddy, you know, she looks like she's badass, you know, so we're picking this image. And it works just fine for the text to be over it, and it's dark enough to where it looks good with that white text. So these are all choices that you have to make depending on what kind of feeling you want to give. I think this dark feeling is okay because it's like the badass biddies club, right? And so that little grit is part of our brand. So how would we edit that if we didn't want that picture, or if we want to take it from the demo content into our own content? This section right here is called the banner. And so as you're on Squarespace, you'll see that these little hover menus pop up as you're scrolling around. So if I wanted to go in and change the banner itself, which is what's behind there, behind that text, this is where I would do it in the image editor. So if I wanted to just remove this image, I would hit remove image. So if it's demo content, you remove image, and then it gives you a menu. We'll just hit it, and then hopefully this won't mess anything up too much. We will go in, my bad biddies. I might have to just search for that really quick. Okay, let's go a different way. There we go. Okay, we got photo shoot. We have all the different things in here. So I think it was called dark stage. Nope, silhouette. So then we would just select that and wait for it to upload. Another tip for you guys there is in choosing that image, it needs to be at least 2,000 pixels wide in order to cover that area. 2,500 pixels would be even better, and you want it to be high res, because if somebody's looking at it on a big screen, it's going to look terrible if it's a low res image, and we're looking for a PNG or a JPEG to put in here. So there you go. You can also, as I was mentioning before, move this little circle, and what that does is when it's on mobile and things need to stack on top of it and become vertical, then that little circle is where it will focus in. So we want it kind of maybe on her so she can be in the center of that image. If this circle's over here and it stacks, it's going to just show the gray part behind it, if that makes sense. So there you go. You're going to have it be centered on her. And then also in these page settings, you can go into SEO, and you see that I've actually put in information here. This is how it will show up on Google. So as we're in these page settings, you might as well click around and do some of that stuff. Or you can do SEO and page settings as a separate whole process, and I'll make a separate video about that. But just want to show you that in this page setting area is where you would find that. And there we go. So social image we might want to put in there, and that could be either that same image that you just uploaded, or you can do a logo or a photo of your band, anything like that. So that's just also if you're just putting in straight up your website URL on like a Facebook page, it will automatically pull that, and this is what it'll look like. Empowered Female Artists, Bad Beauties Club, which is what I put in for SEO. So we'll do a separate video on SEO, but just want to show you that right there, that in here is where you would change the big banner image that shows up at the top of your website. Let's save that and get out of here, and we'll go on. Great, and it'll disappear once you've saved it. All right, so how do we edit the other things on this banner? When you're trying to edit, you just literally will go in and you'll wait until this other menu will start hovering, and it should be kind of like that. You want to say edit. So rather than going into banner, you're going to go into edit, and then it brings up these types of menus where you can save, cancel. There's a little plus sign to add elements. So just knowing that you're editing home, which is one section of that index page, which is our home page. So this section right here saying Bad Biddies, Good Music, you would literally just click in there. You can see that it's a heading 1. If you wanted to see what it looked like differently, you could go in here and make it one of the other headings that you've set up in the site-wide styles. One note on that is, because of the way that Google and other search engines work, you want to be careful about how you mark H1, H2, and so on. Heading 1, or H1, is the main subject of that page. So if it's new music, if it's book us now, things like that, it would become that main indicator of what content is on that page as Google spiders crawl your page. So they're looking for heading 1s, they're looking for heading 2s, and weight is given to that material based on which one it is. Heading 1 is like, this is what this page is about, I'm going to base everything else on that. Heading 2 is less important, and so on. So if you're having a blog, for example, the title of the blog would be H1. The subtitles within the blog would be H2. And you don't just want to use paragraph text and bold it, for example, or make it a little bit bigger for your headlines and your subheadlines, because in the code, in the background, it has to be marked as a header, or it's not as easily found and categorized by Google. So heading 1 and heading 2, it's not only a style thing, it's also a programming thing so that your SEO value can be raised. So we want to be careful about how we use these styling tools. And then you can go in here and you know, if you want to remove or whatever, we don't want to remove this. But if, let's say we want to edit it, we want it to say something else, this is where it would go. And so the click-through URL, it could either be an outside URL, which is what you would click web address, or if it's a page within your own website, you can have a listing of the pages right in here, and it'll show you what that would be. So we're going to cancel because we're not making changes there. And then you can also change the style of that button with these controls, and you can see I haven't set the site-wide style on that to be square. Remember in the last video, we were going over site-wide, or at the beginning of, remember earlier in this video, we were playing around with our button styles, and there are different styles for each size of button. Now we wouldn't want them to be, you know, one is pill-shaped and one is square, so I need to go back and make sure all my site styles are set before I start building. So that's one example of how you can get yourself off track because you didn't set up that medium button, right? So we want it to be small. Maybe we would like it to be aligned left. That's how it would look like with that. I would like it to be aligned center. I think that looks good. And that's how you would edit that section. If you're done with that, you can have save. If you'd like to add more text or another something, you can hit this add button and add something there. And I'll show you that in another section. Changes would be discarded. Yes, okay. Okay, so then it will pop you back here. Now let's go down to the rest of it. This we would do the same way. It's a banner that's behind, and you'll see that the image is there. Then to edit what's on top of it, you hit edit, and the same thing. You can edit the text, have this button go somewhere, and then I want to show you this within this section. If you want to add something, you hit plus sign, and here's all the basic things you can add: text, a quote, an overlap image. This would be an image with some text overlapping on top of it, a gallery grid, different things like a form, a map, even custom code where you're embedding something from somewhere else. So you'll get familiar with these different items. The ones we use most often are going to be text, images, videos. You can use this embed right here to embed playlists from Spotify or even SoundCloud links to music. And so we'll look at how that looks in just a moment with the embed functionality. Then that would add that right below this button. You also probably use spacers, lines, buttons. All these things on the very top are going to be most useful, and you can add those right into your sections, and so on with the rest of your page. Something like this, just want to show you, you get these 4 images in a row by using a gallery. You could either use a gallery functionality or you can use spacers. So the way that you use spacers is just like I said, you add this plus sign, you select spacer, and the thing with Squarespace is it will always add your next element at the very bottom of the page. And then you need to grab it and then see how the line moves based on where it's going to be. You want to place that right where it needs to be. So you know what, I think we do need a little bit more space between shop now. Rather than it just being underneath this photo, see how the line is just right underneath that photo? We want the line to be all the way across because that's how it's going to drop in when you release your mouse. I want that to be a little bit less space, so I just simply drag it. And then if I think that looks good, I go ahead and hit save. So there we have that. You can see that's the medium button. We haven't styled it properly for the rest of the site. So I would go back through and do all the styling as I go along to make sure it's consistent. That's how you would then manage each part of this. If you want to add a section or duplicate a section or see how this looks overall, let me just go back and show you that one more time, what I clicked on. Manage sections. This is when you have an index page like this, you would go manage sections, and then you see the different sections that there are overall on this page. So you can kind of see that we did dark light a little bit, and you can hit this to add things in between if you want to. So there you go on the index page. So that would be our home page. Then you want to go in and make some of these other pages, which are actually linked to from here. So if you say listen free, where that's going to link to, as I showed before, is the music page. So let's take a look at the music page. Just take a quick look. The site automatically will do certain things for you, like adding in a banner image right behind that. So you want to make sure that as you're going through and you want to edit, you make sure that that all looks good. So again, you would just go, this is the intro part to the page, and so you would hit edit for that if you needed to, and you can edit like this. See how it put a text box over the top of that? We don't want text over the top of that. So we're just going to hit cancel because we're not making edits to this right now, but that's where you would edit because this is the intro to the page. If you want to edit this page content, again, you just go into edit, and it will bring up this every time. Save, cancel, editing page content. That's how you know you're in the editor. Let's cancel that. So if you're not in the editor, when you click on things, it'll actually do the action that it's supposed to do. So this actually is just linking straight out to Spotify. And this is a kind of a collective playlist that we made together with class. So you can link out to that, but an even better way to do that would be to embed it within your site. Let me get rid of this. And it's our test site. I can just close that. Oh, sorry. This thing's over the top of me. So if you do that and you click and you're like, wait, where's my site? It's because it was an external link. You would have to just hit back and you'll get back to your editing capabilities right there. So we're back to our website, and you can do that in different ways. This is literally just a button with a link to an outside playlist. You can also, if you'd like to, like I showed you, hit edit for this content, and then hit the little plus button. If you'd rather not have get bad to this right there, then you would just maybe hit embed. And again, this goes all the way down to the bottom. So if you have a link to a playlist, it's an embeddable URL. So you would put the URL there. There are tooltips and information on every single function within Squarespace. So you would, if you don't know what this is, just hit learn more and it'll tell you a little bit more about that. But you're basically going to paste a URL in here, and it will embed it and have it be actually playing inside the website. So let me show you how that looks on a couple of other things. I'm going to edit, sorry, just to show you. If you wanted this new section, this embed section, you just grab it like I grabbed the other element and put it where you want it to go. right underneath get bad to this, instead of having the button, you would just have it, I'm pointing at the screen, rather than having the button, you would have it actually embedded right there, and the playlist would be there inside your website. As much as you can, you want to try to avoid taking people off of your website to something else, because you don't have these opportunities to pull them in, get their email address, or have a booking or contact us, things like that. You want them inside your website. So as much as you can, embed videos, embed playlists, that's better. So to show you down here a little bit more, this is, let me get out of this so we can actually see the functionality. Changes to be discarded, that's fine. So these are actually embedded. So up here we have some links out to there. And here we have it actually embedded. So this is from SoundCloud. You would grab the embed, the share. Let's just do it right now. This is the HTTPS link that you would put in just where we said where you would embed. So that's all we did, was we grabbed the link and then we put it in as an embedded content. And then as you're going through the site, you can just literally hit play. And that's what it would do. It would play right inside. If you want to hear more, it'll link out to the SoundCloud, but you want to try to play things inside your site. You can also upload the actual music files into your site as well. So just use that little plus button to add in the elements, and you can kind of organize it how you'd like to. Pop that arrow back out and scroll through, see if you like how it looks, and you're done with that page. So you really just go through each menu item, each menu sub item, and make it how you'd like it to be. To do menu sub items, I should just show you. Let's say you wanted booking to be underneath about. That's a common thing to do, like a contact us or a booking would be underneath about. So here's how you do that. You grab it with your mouse and you hover over the next one, and it should be able to be, oh, I know what the problem is. You can only have that if it's an index page at the top. So I would be able to put booking underneath here, but I wouldn't be able to put it underneath here because it's just a page. So if I wanted to do the booking or the contact page underneath the about menu, I would have to make an about index page or folder that would then hold the content for that. So if you wanted to do a folder, you would go primary navigation, folder, then you make your about folder, and then you have to put stuff in it. So this would be my about page. Just drag it in there, about. And then booking would maybe be underneath that. So I'm just showing you the functionality of how you create your menus. And then if I don't want that to be the very first thing on my navigation, see how that puts it in order? It puts it in order of how you have it. So you have to take this here, just click on it, and you pull that all the way down to where you want it. I would say maybe it's just right after home. So now if we look at it, let me move myself down to the corner again. So we have our new menu, home, about. Now look, if I hover over this, now we've got about and booking there. And that's one of the ways that we reduced our menu. So you have that right there, about, home, about, and then look, as you have your submenus, you can have them right there. So we just created submenus. This is another thing that you can set in site-wide styles. Maybe I'd like a pop of color here. When you hover over it, maybe I don't want it to be gray. Maybe I want it to be yellow or red or whatever my brand color is. That is all set in site-wide styles, which we went over earlier in the video. So that's a very basic run through of how to build on Squarespace. I'm sure that there are a lot more details that you may have questions about, so feel free to drop a comment or contact me and let me know what your questions are. This is just a very basic overview of how to use Squarespace to create your pages and your content. We're going to talk more about SEO in another video, and then even more about how to share and promote your Squarespace website to gain a following and a fan base. Thanks for watching the basics of Squarespace website building. I'm Dr. Maya from Market Your Purpose. Feel free to connect with us anytime.